We are the March chapter here at the high school, and we did an event for kids to come in touch with the Maker movement.
With the group, I'm Dominic Kenny, and for the group I have been the liaison handling the paperwork that goes between us to any other group, whether it's the school, the tech center, for this event, the library. I had to fill out paperwork in order for us to be able to do busing to get us to Mike for the state event for Mike's, in order to have people that weren't officially in a tech class that went. For example, Tim was on the list of paperwork that I had to fill out for that. In order to make sure that they could go because they were part of our chapter, which was built off of the event. The paperwork to that was actually rather simple. I just had to convince the tech center that we were valid.
Great. Thanks. Okay, our idea was that there's a big maker movement in America. There are magazines about making and building, and it's really just an amazing movement that creates new innovations and new ways of creating stuff that has the potential to get America out of like a financial crisis. And we, as the Mike chapter, which is Michigan.
Yeah, Michigan Industrial Technical Educational Society.
And that we want to create like a link and get children or like elementary school kids in touch with this movement. And to do that, we created 2 events.
One built with the idea of the circuitry that's very heavily involved in anything you do with the maker movement. And the other would be the programming, which is kind of the behind the scenes to anything you use anymore.
Yeah, anything computers. We try to do Minecraft to get the kids involved.
Yes.
And what was it, Android?
The other thing is an Android app inventor, which allows you to create Android apps fairly easily. Yeah, and you see those here. We have the Android app inventor, and that's
The Minecraft event programming thing called Learn to Mod. It allows you to interface between a web browser and the game itself to create your basic program to do just about anything.
And maybe you want to
Yeah,
say
you
something
handled
about the
the
concept of
circuitry,
Plato.
but that was
yeah.
you.
And part of the first event at Fancher, we did conduct with Plato as one of
Yes.
the stations, which is just a do-it-yourself kind of like Plato, but it can conduct electricity, and you can pretty much stick on any wire, just act like any other wire.
This is actually a video. We kind of borrowed the idea of using the video from the programming teacher in the school. He uses it at the beginning of every programming class to show why it is everyone needs to learn at least basic programming and how it is heavily involved with everything you do. I think in this video they pull
Just about.
the CEO from most of the major companies you use stuff from, whether or not you realize it.
I was 13 when I first got access to a computer. My parents bought me a Macintosh in 1984 when I was 8 years old.
I was in 6th grade.
I learned to code in college, freshman year, first semester, intro to computer science.
I wrote a program to play tic-tac-toe.
I think it was pretty humble beginnings. I think the first program I wrote asked things like, what's your favorite color? Or how old are you?
I first learned how to make a green circle and a red square appear on the screen.
The first time I actually had somebody come up and say, "Hello, world," and I made a computer do that. It was just astonishing.
Learning how to program didn't start off as wanting to learn all of computer science or trying to master this discipline or anything like that. It just started off because I wanted to do this one simple thing. I wanted to make something that was fun for myself and my sisters. And I wrote this little program and basically just add a little bit to it. And then when I needed to learn something new, I looked it up, either in a book or on the internet, and then added a little bit to it.
It's really not unlike kind of playing an instrument or something, or playing a sport. It starts out being very intimidating, but you kind of get the hang of it over over time?
Coding is something that can be learned, and I know it can be intimidating, and a lot of things are intimidating, but you know, what isn't?
A lot of the coding people do is actually fairly simple. It's more about the process of breaking down problems than sort of coming up with complicated algorithms as people traditionally think about it.
You don't have to be a genius to know how to code. You need to be determined.
Addition, subtraction, that's about it.
You should probably know your multiplication tables.
You don't have to be a genius to code. You have to be a genius to read.
Even if you want to become a race car driver or play baseball, or build a house, and all of these things have been turned upside down by software.
What it is, computers are everywhere. Do you want to work in agriculture? Do you want to work in entertainment? Do you want to work in manufacturing? It's just all over.
Here we are, 2013. We all depend on technology to communicate, to bank, information, and none of us know how to read and write code.
When I was in school, I was in this after-school group called the Whiz Kids, and when people found out, they laughed at me, and all these things. And I'm like, man, I don't care. I think it's cool, and I'm learning a lot, and some of my friends have jobs.
Okay. So we decided we want to do 2 events. We want to have, like we said, one event that's more focused about the hands-on stuff like circuit building, computer parts, stuff like that, and the other part that was supposed to be about programming. So we did research. We created websites for people to sign up for the events. We created other stuff. Do you maybe want to show the website?
Yeah. Did we attach the link in here yet? Okay.
It's Geotech. Geotech -nights.github.io. And then you click on Mount Pleasant Nights event. Mount Pleasant. Thank you. And the idea behind the website was that children were supposed to have fun with it, play with it, and screw around with it, and not have just plain information on a white background. Kind of in line with the idea of the event itself. Okay.
Along with the preparations, we also had to immerse ourselves in, for the idea of the circuitry, we had to find an easy way to allow ourselves to get from Fancher how to use circuitry without the danger of wires can stab, cause many damages. In fact, our electronics instructor is blind in one eye because at 5 years old he was playing with residential wire without safety glasses on. Ended up stabbing himself in the eye. As a result, we did some research and found conductive Play-Doh like we showed before. So, 2-3 weeks beforehand, we made our first batch of it to test it for ourselves and see small tweaks to it we had to make it work better for our purposes. Yeah. Which worked amazing. Yeah, it worked amazing for us. And then for App Inventor and Learn to Mod, both of which we had known about beforehand for various purposes. We had all known about App Inventor before because of programmers.
I created a couple example apps so easy that are easy to understand, and you can have good documented code in the background. And
then with Learn to Mod, I actually work with Benton Memorial Library right now as one of their administrators to the microserver they host personally. And as a result, they've been looking into getting Learn to Mod for 3-4 months now. And I decided to help them with the first step and got a temporary account set up that we could use to test things and had it available for us for this. I think the account's still active for another month or 2 before I have to go and pay for it, which kind of can't. It's free from the event. Allowing ourselves to learn the basics behind all of it let us know what to do when students showed up to learn. And
Then the day came and it was 14th of May and we went to Fancher after school and set up stations.
just sadly we don't have an image of it, but when we were loading into the vehicles to transport over and then to Fancher and unloaded again, let alone getting back, which didn't have the time restraint we had getting there. We had the issue of, we had to get to Fancher from school. We had out of school at 2, and we had 15-20 minutes to make sure all our stuff was packed into cars so we could head out. Luckily, we had packed most of it into containers that were pretty easy to move. The issue is said containers were recycling bins that aren't very easy to fit through doorways very quickly.
And then the computer in my station, which were giant rectangles.
Yes, that didn't help either. But along with this, luckily with Fancher, we had gotten the principal and just one class, I think, on board and completely for this project. And as a result, we had an hour there from 2:45 till basically when their school ended, where we just worked with them and they got to see the different things that we work with. It completely grabbed their attention the entire time. They were extremely interested in what was going on. And all of us had some sort of direct interaction for them. For an event that I did down here, I worked with a function generator to create a sound playing on a speaker. I hooked that up to an oscilloscope so you can see the actual waveform of power going up and down to create the sound. And the challenge we gave them is I then hooked a microphone to the same system and challenged them to make the same sound, or the same wave show on the oscilloscope. And we had tested it, I don't know, an hour before they even showed up, then and another hour before we even packed everything away to ensure that it truly was possible. So as an example at the beginning, in that case, as you can see, I also had an instrument from the band, because out of us, I happened to be the one in the band. It made plenty of sense. I first made an example occasionally where I would play the instrument and match, but also would use the microphone and sing and match the pitch. I believe David used the conductive Play-Doh with residential wiring.
Right here.
Yeah. You had a speaker hidden where a light should have been, as I recall.
Yeah, because we were using our voltage.
And I was talking about computer parts. We had a computer that was a normal computer. We took all the parts out, put them on a plastic sheet kind of thing, so you can see all the parts. The electronics part of the school already had that built, so we didn't do that. I didn't do that myself. And we just set it up and explained it to interested children what the parts do, how they interact, how they work, what they do right now. And Connor had a microcontroller, that's basically an Arduino, which is a small computer chip with pins where you can put parts of an electronic circuit to it and run it from a computer. And we have the next page with more
Yes.
images.
We actually suit with this, yeah. Oh, we do have an image now of the trailer, or
That's
yeah, the president of our event. Luckily, he is a student. He's actually a current junior, and he decided, because we were all headed there anyways, we were just going to load everything into his SUV. We were going to make it work, and we were going to then run to Fancher and hope we got everything set up on time. As a result, I think the bigger challenge was getting everything in the first time, because then on the way back, we had stuff moved around to a few different vehicles. But it ran really well.
Yeah.
This one was astonishing.
Of course, we have more pictures of every station, some without and some with people.
There was, I was surprised at how many kids were extremely interested in everything.
Yeah, some even knowing electronics.
Yeah, there were a couple of kids, actually, I don't know how much you guys heard it. When I was running my station, I actually had a kid go up to me and talk about the science behind what I was showing them, and asked if he was right on his guess, which actually he was spot on. All the way down to, I think the one thing he tripped up was the measurement at which the speaker was playing at. And to be that close to 100% right at, I don't know, 12 years old is pretty impressive.
On the 19th, we had another event which didn't go as well.
Perfectly.
We were planning on having in the Veterans Memorial Library where we got a room there with computers set up, and we installed the software we were going to use to teach about programming and set it all up, and then something happened.
Yeah, unfortunately, the flyers we handed out, we had realized it short, like a day after we had left Fancher, and had never had the contact ability to get to the teacher again to make sure that the flyers were indeed handed to the parents. What happened was, or to our understanding, the flyers we handed out to the students at the end of the first event, because this happened a week later. And on the flyer was the link to your sign-up, to the sign-up sheet for this event. No one had signed up, and personally working with the library, that happens more often than not.
So, but we did get a good connection to the library out of this, so we had, it was a useful event, even though we didn't get to teach any children. But we have created connections and a framework for the library to have similar events in the future. We created bridges so that that can be done again in the future, better and with better advertising. And yeah.
And actually, it was the cleanest picture out of a bunch I could grab, but this is an AT guy that I've worked with personally for the past 3 years, and he decided to elect himself to take time out of essentially running every computer at the memorial out of the entire district they run to hang out with us for the time, and was going to help us with the students because they almost all have worked with him or been at events he ran before, so it would be another face they knew. Unfortunately, no one showed up, but his knowledge very quickly showed to us because App Inventor was open 5 minutes on a computer that he sat down at. And I'm not sure if you guys saw it, but within the 5 minutes, he had actually developed an app that he then trashed because he didn't like one of the design features on it. But it actually, similar to how yours recorded sounds, his recorded the signal intensity. He essentially did your NMAP program, but he wrote it from scratch.
Okay. So to summarize our thing, the Fancher event was very successful. We would like to do it again. Maybe next year. There was my chapter might do it like an annual event. It's something that happened at Fancher. And the library we need to, for future events, there need to be better and more effective advertising and more connection to the library, more advertising at the library itself.
And actually something we neglected to mention that was quite entertaining setting up at Fancher. We had a wall socket we wanted to use right next to one of our stations. We noticed right off the bat that it probably wasn't going to hold the wall plug too well that we had, and I think it was actually Connor that went to plug it in, and as soon as it went in the wall, we heard some sparks coming from the wall, so he quickly unplugged. But by the time he had unplugged, half the lights in the cafeteria had actually dimmed almost all the way off.
And then the janitor.
The janitor had come in and let us know that that has been on the maintenance list for 2 years.
Yeah.
So what we did is we happened to have some black duct tape on hand for God knows what reason. Covered the
Because
plug.
Anderson came.
We covered the plug for safety because there's a chance the student might do the same thing we did. And we went on our way. Hopefully they get that fixed or removed. It's a total event of Fancher.
Yeah, what we have created is a framework for advertising for similar events. We have now a website for the Mount Pleasant High School Mike chapter, an official website, and we can, over that website, we can always create like new events, advertise, and yeah, that's what we gave back to the community as a new project.
Throughout the entire time of scheduling this, because we had a feeling something would fall through, and this case, something did. No one had shown up to our second event. We decided to keep a full documentation of the work we did, and we have a copy of nearly all of it on the folder we have shared with Mr. Shinborn. There is a few documents pertaining our exact plans with how Fancher was planned, saved in a separate folder we have for just the Mike's chapter itself. And at that folder, we have that kept owned under Mr. Anderson's account so that he can keep it as the chapter continues to grow. So if they decide to build off of this, they have a very nice documentation of what happened beforehand, so they can see this worked amazingly for them, this didn't. Maybe I want to try it this way instead and see how it works. It allows the school to build off of what's already been there, which seems to be a recurring thing for the school.
Thank you very much for your attention, and this is just a special thanks to all the organizations that work with us.
And our current flyer for Mike's chapter.
Thank you very much.
Part of their project as well, and the category is the comprehension category, in which they say they're going to answer 3 to 4 questions from you guys. So we'll see if we have some questions for them about their project and presentation.
Sean?
You guys said you made all that Play-Doh, right?
Yes, we did.
So how do you make that?
I think ours was flour. I think the conductive part was actually we used lemon juice. It's the same recipe you find anywhere for Play-Doh. The difference is it's leavening agent, or the balancing agent. Instead of using something that's naturally insulating and non-conductive, we used lemon juice. There was a version of the recipe we looked at that used tartar sauce, but that was also noted to have the scent of tartar sauce, so we avoided that.
What's the official name of the project? Squishy Circuits?
Yes, the official project, it was actually a TED Talk that was through. There was a presentation the lady who created the Squishy Circuits did. She had done a presentation for a TED Talk, and that was actually something we documented. But I think the hardest, well, I'm trying to remember something else that almost didn't work.
Any other questions?
Yeah, did you develop, what was that screen where they had the different pieces that moved around on it? Was that something that you developed, or was that something?
In the spare time I have in my web development class in high school, I did that.
And how did you do that?
With a JavaScript function.
There's a library edition you can add, and he used a small amount of it. I had seen his code, and I identified some of it. There are 2 versions of code for what he did. There's one version I did which is insanely ugly, and our instructor has vowed to never allow in the building again. And the other is very clean, and essentially it's a different version of, I think everyone's used it, Google Gravity, where it does the exact same thing, where everything just falls to the ground and you can still operate the site normally. It's just a slightly different format. Anything else?
Thank you.